As Emma was working in her garden, she suddenly heard a rustling noise coming from the hedges. She was shocked to see it was a lynx, and at first she was really afraid. However, soon it became clear that the animal was not there to attack her, but actually needed her help. When Emma realized what was going on, she immediately called the vet. "Emma, that is unbelievable. Stay right there, I'm on my way." She never expected something like this to happen, and she hoped the vet would arrive in time. It was a race against the clock. Emma stands eye in eye with the lynx, and she holds her breath, scared to even move. She thinks of the best way to escape, but then something unexpected happens. The lynx starts meowing. It seems like it is asking Emma for help. She decides to take the risk and starts walking toward it. Not much later, it becomes clear that the lynx was indeed asking for help, and it isn't alone. Its kittens are here too. Emma is shocked to see what is going on, and she immediately calls a veterinarian, telling him to come as soon as possible. It's an emergency. When the vet hears what happened, he turns pale. "Stay right there, I'm on my way." Emma just hopes the vet will arrive before it is too late. Meanwhile, there's nothing else she can do but wait. She stays with the lynx and its kittens, hoping everything will turn out fine. Why did the lynx ask for help? What did Emma see, and why was the doctor so shocked? The sun was shining while Emma worked on the front porch of her new house. She and her husband Brad had just moved here, and they absolutely loved it. They had always lived in the city, but lately they had been longing for an environment with more nature. They lived near a huge forest and were excited to explore the hiking trails around the lakes and over the hills. They had already gone on a couple of hikes, but they had been too busy moving in and adding the finishing touches to their home. Emma had a big smile on her face as she tended to their new garden. The air smelled fresh and crisp, and the birds in the trees filled the air with their chirpy music. Emma was in a great mood, still completely unaware of what was about to happen. The front door opened and Brad walked out of the house. "Brad, hey Em, I'm off to the hardware store downtown. I need some new plugs and something's wrong with my drill. I might take a while." He kissed her goodbye, got in the car, and drove off. From that moment on, when she knew she was alone, she felt like she was being watched, like she wasn't alone after all. But she just shook it off and laughed. She was probably just stressed from the past couple of months. How couldn't she be? They just moved across the country. She continued working and tried to focus on what she was doing, but for some reason she was just too distracted. So after a while, she decided to take a break. The garden was far from done yet, but she felt like she needed to get some rest. She made herself a nice cup of tea and sat on the rocking chair on the porch, taking in the beautiful view she had from her new home. She still couldn't believe that they were actually living here now. She closed her eyes and listened to the sounds of nature until she heard something. It was different from all the other sounds. It sounded like something was rustling in the hedge. Emma told herself it could be anything. There were plenty of wild animals in this area. Most of them weren't even dangerous, but not all of them, she thought to herself. It's probably just a hedgehog or a squirrel or a little mouse, but nothing scary. She tried to relax and continue drinking her tea, but she just could not keep her eyes closed for longer than 1 second. The rustling still hadn't stopped. She was really curious and eager to know what was creeping around her garden making that noise. She stood up to get a better look, and then she saw the hedge slowly open up. An animal walked through it. Right into her garden, and then it stood still and looked Emma directly in the eyes. She wanted to scream, but she was afraid to make any noise. For a split second, she thought it was just a giant cat, and in a way it was. It was a lynx. She held her breath as she looked at the animal. What was she going to do now? The animal stood as still as a statue, and it didn't even blink. It was completely focused on Emma, and she didn't even dare to put down her cup of tea, scared that any movement would startle the lynx, or even worse, give it a reason to attack her. She took a few deep breaths and thought fast about what she should do. She knew that lynx did not often attack humans, but they certainly could if they wanted to, and if that happened, it could be very dangerous. They could leave someone seriously injured, and Emma didn't want to take that risk, especially seeing as she was home alone. If anything happened to her, it might take hours for help to arrive. Her phone was still inside the house, and Brad would probably not return soon. However, she needed to be quick. She had no time to lose. It would be better to get up and run inside now while the lynx was still further away from her, instead of letting it get close. So Emma gathered all her courage, put her cup of tea down, pushed herself up out of the chair and made a run for the door. However, just when she grabbed the doorknob, ready to push it open, she heard something that made her stop and slowly turn around. The lynx was quietly meowing, and it did not look like it was going to attack her. On the contrary, it almost seemed as if it was asking her for help, begging her not to leave. Emma was confused. What did this animal want from her? She was still careful and kept her distance, but she was a little less afraid now. "Hi there. It's okay. I won't hurt you," she softly spoke to the lynx. "What do you want?" She thought that if the animal got used to her voice, it would be less likely to attack her. The lynx just continued meowing like it was urging her to hurry. Emma took a few steps in its direction and then it stopped. But as soon as she stood still, the lynx started meowing again. "Okay, I'm coming closer, if that's what you want. Just don't hurt me." Of course, Emma didn't expect the lynx to understand what she was saying, but she thought that speaking to it in a calm and soft voice would help it understand that she wasn't going to hurt it. Well, she knew it worked with dogs and cats, and it seemed to work. The lynx turned around and took a few steps toward the hedge, but it kept looking back at Emma, making sure she was still there. She carefully followed its lead and tried ignoring the fact that she was risking her life right now, and she didn't even know what for. However, it would become clear very quickly. Suddenly, the hedge started rustling again. Emma held her breath as she felt the fear bubbling back up. There was something else here with them. Had this been part of the lynx's plan all along? Did it just lead her here to make her an easier prey? She was getting ready to run back to the door, but she was too late. She saw the hedge slowly open up, and she stood still, closed her eyes, and held her arms in front of her to protect her from whatever was making its way into her garden. She stood still and waited for something to happen. She expected something would attack her any second now, but she waited, and nothing happened. Was she wrong? She slowly opened her eyes, and when she saw what was standing in front of her, she gasped. She couldn't believe that this was why the lynx had called her over. It had indeed needed her help. She needed to take action, and she had had no minute to waste. She ran back into the house and grabbed her phone, quickly dialing the local vet's number. Luckily, the phone only rang twice before someone picked up. When she explained to Dr. Smith what she had encountered, he gasped. "What? Are you sure? I'll be there as soon as I can. Just stay put, don't go anywhere, and make sure they don't leave." Smith's truck pulled up in a cloud of dust and he stepped out, a mix of urgency and disbelief on his face as he approached the garden. His eyes widened at the sight of the lynx and her kittens nestled in the shade. "Emma, this is incredible," he exclaimed, awestruck by the trust the wild animal had placed in her. "How did you manage this?" Emma shrugged, her own amazement mirrored in her eyes. "I'm not sure. She just came to me." Together, they set about creating a safe haven in the garage. Old blankets were spread out, and a corner was designated for food and water. The lynx, watchful and cautious, allowed them to move her kittens into this new shelter. Emma marveled at the mother lynx's calmness as they gently relocated her family. Dr. Smith nodded in approval. "This will do for now. We need to keep them comfortable and secure." Smith methodically examined each kitten, his hands steady yet gentle. The mother lynx lay close by, her eyes tracking his every move. "They seem healthy," he murmured. "Remarkably so, given the circumstances." Emma and the lynx family. Circumstances Emma watched intently, learning from his calm demeanor. "What about the mother?" she asked. Dr. Smith turned to the lynx, a respectful distance maintained. "She's fine, a bit stressed but healthy." Remarkable word of Emma's unusual guests spread quickly. Neighbors peeked over fences, curiosity piqued by the sight of Dr. Smith's parked truck and the murmur of a wild lynx in Emma's garden. Children whispered in awe, and adults speculated in hushed tones. "Have you seen the lynx?" became the question of the hour. Emma knew her life was about to change with her garden now a point of local interest. Emma's days began to revolve around her new charges. More mornings were spent preparing food for the lynx family, and evenings were dedicated to watching over them. She found herself researching lynx diets. ensuring she provided the best care. Her garden tasks took a backseat as she embraced her role as a caretaker, finding joy in the simple routine of nurturing these wild creatures. Each day, Emma spent time near the lynx, talking softly and moving slowly to avoid startling her. Gradually, the lynx seemed to accept her presence, no longer retreating when Emma approached. It was a slow dance of trust, each step forward met with cautious acceptance. Emma felt a profound connection developing, one that transcended the boundaries between wild and human worlds. The first night Emma stayed up late watching over the Lynx family, she set up a chair in the garage, a blanket draped over her shoulders. The quiet of the night was punctuated by the soft sounds of the kittens. The mother lynx, ever vigilant, occasionally locked eyes with Emma, an unspoken understanding passing between them. It was a night of silent guardianship under the watchful stars. At dawn, Emma witnessed the lynx's mother gently nudging her kittens, encouraging them to play. The sight was heartwarming, a glimpse into the intimate life of a wild family. The kittens tumbled and pounced, their youthful energy a stark contrast to their mother's calm watchfulness. Emma felt privileged to witness these moments, realizing there was much to learn about these majestic creatures. By mid-morning, neighbors started arriving with offers of help. Some brought food, others blankets, and a few just wanted to help however they could. Emma was touched by the outpouring of support. "We're all in this together," one neighbor said, handing over a bag of groceries. Emma realized that her lynx family had brought the community together in a way she never expected. With the community's support, Emma delved deeper into understanding lynxes. She pored over books and online resources, learning about their habits, diet, and needs. Each new piece of information helped her provide better care for her temporary family. She realized how little she knew about these creatures, and was determined to be the best caretaker she could be during their time together. A local reporter, intrigued by the whispers of a wild lynx in a suburban garden, arrived with a camera and notepad. Emma, a bit hesitant at first, agreed to an interview. She shared the story of the lynx's arrival and her efforts to care for them. Family. The reporter listened intently, capturing every detail. Emma hoped this coverage would highlight the importance of respecting and protecting local wildlife. As days passed, Emma became fascinated by the mother lynx's behavior. She noticed how the lynx communicated with her kittens, a series of soft growls and nudges. The way she groomed them meticulously and with gentle care was particularly endearing. Emma realized these creatures had a complex social structure and deep familial bonds, much like humans. The community support continued to pour in. Neighbors dropped off cans of salmon and bags of meat suitable for a lynx's diet. Others brought blankets and even built a small shelter within the garage for added comfort. Emma was overwhelmed by their generosity. It seemed the lynx family had not only captured her heart, but that of the entire neighborhood. Each day strengthened the bond between Emma and the lynx family. She spoke to them softly, narrating her actions to avoid startling them. The lynx mother, once wary, now observed Emma with a calm, understanding gaze. The kittens, curious and playful, began to venture closer to Emma, a sign of their growing trust in her. One morning, Emma noticed one kitten limping and not playing with its siblings. Concerned, she called Dr. Smith immediately. Upon examination, they found a small but deep cut on its leg, likely from a thorn or sharp object. Emma's heart sank. She knew they needed to act fast to prevent infection or worse. Dr. Smith arrived with his medical kit. Together, they gently restrained the kitten as he cleaned and treated the wound. Emma held the kitten softly, whispering words of comfort. The mother lynx watched intently, her eyes reflecting a mix of fear and trust. It was a tense yet tender moment, highlighting the fragile line between wild and human worlds. Word of the injured kitten spread quickly, and the community's response was immediate. People brought medical supplies, donations, and offers of assistance. The local pet store even donated a small first aid kit for animals. Emma was touched by the outpouring of concern and help, reinforcing the bond she felt with her neighbors. Over the following days, the injured kitten showed signs of recovery. Its limp lessened, and it began to play more with its siblings. Emma and Dr. Smith monitored its progress closely, relieved with each positive sign. The mother lynx too seemed more relaxed, her trust in Emma solidifying as she cared for her wounded young. Emma seized this opportunity to educate her neighbors about wildlife conservation. She organized small talks in her garden, sharing facts about lynxes and their habitat. Local schools expressed interest, and Emma prepared educational materials for students. This experience had transformed her into a wildlife advocate, a role she embraced wholeheartedly. As the kittens grew stronger, discussions began about releasing the family back into the wild. Emma, Dr. Smith, and a wildlife expert met to plan the release. It was a bittersweet moment for Emma, knowing she would soon say goodbye to the creatures she had grown to love. But she understood the importance of returning them to their natural habitat. Emma wrestled with mixed emotions as the day of release drew closer. She knew in her heart that returning the lynx family to their natural habitat was the right thing to do, but the thought of their absence filled her with a deep sense of loss. She spent long hours sitting with them, memorizing every detail, every moment, preparing herself for their departure. Dr. Smith arrived for one last health check on the lynx family. He examined each kitten carefully, nodding in satisfaction at their progress. The mother lynx, now familiar with Dr. Smith, allowed the examinations with a calm demeanor. "They're ready," he said softly. Emma watched, her heart swelling with pride and a twinge of sadness. The night before the release, Emma sat in the garage, speaking softly to the lynx family. "You're going back home tomorrow," she whispered. Tears filled her eyes as she stroked the mother's fur. It was a silent, heartfelt goodbye filled with gratitude and love. Emma knew this was the end of a remarkable chapter in her life. Dawn broke on the day of the release, and Emma felt a knot in her stomach. The community had gathered to witness this momentous event. Dr. Smith and a wildlife expert were there to oversee the process. Emma watched, her emotions a tumultuous mix of joy, apprehension, and sadness as the cage was opened in the forest. Neighbors and friends stood in silent support. Emma stepped forward, her eyes locked on the lynx family. "Emma, be safe," she murmured. The mother lynx paused at the threshold of the forest, turning to look back at Emma one last time, a final, unspoken farewell. With a graceful leap, the mother lynx disappeared into the forest, her kittens bounding in after her. Emma watched them go, tears streaming down her face. It was a bittersweet moment, the culmination of an incredible journey. She had done her part, and now they were back where they belonged. In the days that followed, Emma found herself reflecting on the experience. She had learned so much about lynxes, about wildlife, and about herself. The experience had changed her, opened her eyes to the beauty and complexity of nature. She felt a profound sense of accomplishment and a deeper connection to the world around her. Inspired by her time with the lynx family, Emma became a vocal advocate for wildlife preservation. She organized community meetings, wrote articles, and even started a local wildlife awareness program. Her experience had ignited a passion for conservation, and she was determined to make a difference. As Emma continued her advocacy, she realized the lasting impact her actions had on the lynx family and her community. The story of the lynx family had raised awareness and brought people together. Emma felt a sense of pride and hope, knowing that her encounter had sparked a positive change. With the lynx family gone, Emma found a new sense of purpose. She was more determined than ever to protect and preserve the natural world. Her garden, once a temporary sanctuary for the lynx family, now bloomed with wildflowers, a symbol of her new beginning and her ongoing commitment to wildlife and nature.